Hi. So welcome to everybody to our to CiviCRM.Tea episode 4. Today we're going to be talking about CiviCRM and the COVID response and what's possible in CiviCRM using Zoom and CiviCRM integration. There's a bit of background noise in my house at the moment because my fish tank is running out of water, but just have to bear with me. So today we're going to be talking about how to connect CiviCRM to Zoom. It's an issue that's come up quite a lot, obviously with Corona and COVID. The need to move events to virtual platforms has become the norm, if you like. In effect, we're talking about moving the location of an event from a physical location to a virtual location, and in this case, it's a Zoom. That's the actual virtual location that you're moving to. In an ideal world, what you want to be able to do is continue to use your infrastructure and your technologies that you've got set up, whilst still using CiviCRM, Zoom to actually host the meetings or the webinars or whatever you've got planned, the event. So that's the ideal. Obviously, CiviCRM being open source, the conversation came up quite a lot, and there was an attempt by an organisation, NCN, to produce something. Like I say, the idea is that you would continue to use all of your existing CiviCRM infrastructure, so the event setup, participant management, all of your rules for reminders, your nicely formatted emails, everything that you've got set up. You would ideally like to be able to continue to do that, whilst removing the need to manually kind of import or export from Civi and import into Zoom, all the potential issues that brings about. So we had reports of clients where they were doing that manually, but they were sending out the wrong links because the schedule reminder was set up in a way, or the rule was set up in a way where it just had the old stuff, the old previous meeting in it. So the wrong links would go out, or they'd go out to the wrong people, or you would import the list and then you would have to redo it because things changed. So it's quite doing it manually is quite labor intensive, and it's prone to mistakes. The other side effect of moving to Zoom is that obviously a lot of events are a lot more popular, i.e. they're accessible now. So we're finding actually clients' events are going from a few hundred people up to thousands. So the scope for error becomes also kind of grows exponentially. So if I've sent out the wrong link, I've sent it out to 1,000 people, not just a couple of hundred. There's issues around when do I send it out? How does Zoom manage it? What if I need to change the date or time? There's all sorts of issues that can potentially come about when you're manually syncing systems. So NCN had a first crack at this, and what they effectively produced was a way to have a Civi rule that would push participants to Zoom. We had a client who kind of needed it urgently, so we picked up the extension and got it fit for production, I would say. I'm sure they won't mind me saying that. And also recently since then we've implemented quite a few installations, but since then we've amended it so you can have multiple Zoom accounts as well. So we've got a couple of clients who have a kind of head office and then a regional layout. And obviously with Zoom, there's only so much you can schedule in a single Zoom account without ending up with a lot of contention and a lot of overlapping meetings / webinars. So they run sometimes one or two or multiple accounts, and again, all of their integration is with a single CiviCRM instance. So they're still using the same website for people to book. It's the same search mechanisms and everything to find the events. The only change is that participants are being pushed over to Zoom when they register. So that's a bit of background about that. What we're going to do today is an installation. So I've seen from the GitHub issues queue and a few questions that have come up that it's not the easiest thing to set up. So I've tried to work through it myself and see how the README can be improved. It's worth bearing in mind there wasn't a README when we picked this up, so it's a work in progress. But hopefully it's a lot more straightforward now. So we're going to give this a crack. So let me just change my scenes. So okie doke. So hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. Okie doke. So I've got my standard CiviCRM screen there. I'm just going to zoom into it a little bit. I thought I was, but I'm zooming into the wrong one. Zoom into it a little bit. Yeah, make it a bit bigger. Okay, so I've got my demo CiviCRM. It's the one we use all the time for CiviCRM episodes. I'm running it in Drupal, but everything I'm about to do works in WordPress. We have probably half of our implementations of WordPress anyway, so we have it working in either environment. I've also got my Zoom account. Well, I haven't logged in yet, but I've got a Zoom account now. For the integration to work, you do need a paid account. If you're running a free Zoom account, it doesn't allow you to do the app integration. So you can't do it. So you need a paid account. So I've got one that we're just using to test this stuff out, etc. And I'm also got the GitHub repo. So this extension isn't yet in the extensions directory. We're going to try and do that this week. Or I say this week, today / Monday. So it should be there, listed there by next week at some point. And initially it is KRD Consulting. So I've forgotten the chap's name. It is, who's the author? Rupert. Yeah, Rupert. So we reached out to him. He was happy for us to kind of move it on and keep adding to it. So it's moved on quite a lot. Like I say, we've added quite a lot of stuff to it, and the README is down here. So I'm going to try and do this in the CiviCRM.Tea method, which is to go through the documents as they stand, and if something doesn't work, then we need to fix the documents, or we need to fix the approach. 1 second, let me just see. Okay, so what does it do? This extension will connect Civi events with Zoom, allowing registrations from Zoom events to be captured in your CiviCRM install via your website. This has a multitude of benefits, GDPR compliance here, so we didn't really talk about that, but again, if you're getting people to sign up for your events and you want to use their data, if you get them to sign up on Zoom, you've got a bit of a GDPR compliance issue or a data protection issue, because a data policy issue is they didn't subscribe to your policy, they subscribed to Zoom's policy. I don't know if you can change stuff. I haven't gone into Zoom that much to know if I can change all the policy and agreements to match mine. But in an ideal world, you shouldn't need to do all that anyway. So the idea here is that I've got my compliance, I've got my data protection or data privacy policy set up, and I've got the acceptance boxes all there in my events already. So I want to use all that. I don't want to be capturing all that in Zoom and then having to work out how to make my data GDPR compliant when I bring it back into Civi. So that's again one of the workflows. We can use Zoom's workflow while still capturing all the information in Civi. So for instance, if I move events, I change something, then we're still using all of Zoom's stuff to manage that. And we're removing the manual import export, which is obviously error prone. So that's the biggest benefit I would suggest. Requirements, so PHP 7, CiviCRM.5, and the rules extension. So in mine, I'm just going to check, but I'm pretty sure I have everything. I'm on 5.2.7. It's not quite the latest update, but it's good enough for what I'm doing. I've got all the rules stuff. The only thing I've turned off is the logger. What I found in the last couple of demos I was doing, CiviCRM.Tea sessions, was that the logger sometimes broke, so it would potentially break a rule, because I think the rule would still fire, but the logger would effectively crash because it couldn't insert into the tables. there's too much data. So I think that's what's called. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I've just turned it off to make sure that it doesn't impact what I'm about to do. So I have that. Let's go back here. I have rules. Yeah, I have rules. And I'm CiviCRM.Tea, so we're all good. And I'm 7. So the installation is going to be a combination of stuff. So we're going to create a connector in Zoom. I'm going to have to delete one. I've just remembered. I've still got my old one. We need to create a connector in Zoom. We need to create some custom fields in Civi. Install the Zoom extension, and then connect the two together. So that's, in effect, that's what we're going to do. So let me just log into, well, let's do that from down here. So the first step is to sign into my Zoom account and create a JWT application. So JWT, thanks to someone in Veda, is Java Web Tokens, I think. But yeah, it's an authorization mechanism. So we're going to create that in Zoom. So I need to go here to the marketplace. Here's the guide on how I do it. So I'll just make this a bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. Make that a bit bigger. That's already big. That's fine. So I'm not going to read all this because I've done this a few times now, so I know how to create the JWT app. But basically, you're creating an app, a connector within your Zoom installation. There's not. It looks like it's all going to be public and you're publishing it, but you're not really. It's just for your account. So I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to sign in. I've got mine signed in with Google. So let's do that. Okay, so I've got mine here. Manage. I'm just going to get rid of this because let's say delete this. Delete it. Deactivate. Now, can I delete it? So, it's interesting, isn't it? How do you delete it? Let's go back here and I'll delete. Yeah. I don't want to do that. So this is fun. It's a good start. How do I get rid of this? Maybe I think you can only create one. I'm going to try and create another one. Yeah. It's not letting me delete it. It's fun. Let's just Google it. Google is your friend. So yeah, because I've been doing this before, I want to delete the app. I want to do it from ground up, just to show you guys how it all works. So how do you delete it? Actually, see the app I want to delete. Click the app I want to delete. Yeah, but it's not letting me do that. So back. Yeah. It's a bit rubbish. Right, let's try and see if there's any way to get rid of this. don't think I can. I'm going to have a look at it a little bit later maybe and see if I can get rid of it. But as I can't, what you would do is, like I say, you follow the instructions. So come to the Zoom marketplace. You will be signed out at that point. You sign in as yourself. You go to develop, build an app. And then when you come through to here, it's going to ask you what kind of app. So you would create a JWT app. So when you create the app, all you're really doing is naming it. So I've named mine my charity CiviCRM app, because there are other types of apps. So you wanna name it in a way that you can identify it. So this is my JWT app. So I could call this my charity. Let's change that, JWT app, and it's connecting my charities CiviCRM to Zoom. I'll put my company, our company in, who the developer is. So again, it all reads like it's going to get published to the wider world, but it's not. It's purely for my Zoom account. So I set those things up, and then when I continue, I'm going to get presented with the API key and the and the API secrets, right? So I'm just going to copy that. Sorry, what I'm doing there. 1 second. I'm just going to get some. Just going to create a notepad. So I'm just going to record that in my notes. So what you need to keep are the 2 bits of information. Hello. So I need to keep the API key and the API secret. So these 2 bits of information I need to keep. So let's just go back to my notes. Okay, so I've got those 2, and then I would continue, and I'm not going to subscribe to events. So this will, in the future, when the CiviCRM extension allows it, it will allow webhooks back into Civi. So if there's a registration directly into Zoom, for instance, or something along those lines, then this would push that information back through the JWT app into the connected apps in theory. But so I'm not going to turn that on right now because I don't need it. And activation. Then the final step is activate. So I'll activate it now. So my app is now activated. So what you should see is when you go to manage, you should now have your activated JWT app, and you can obviously keep track of what you've called it. If you do forget the credentials or forget to copy them, don't worry, you can always come back and get them from here, and you can always reset them if you want to as well. Okay, so that's stage 1. So just going back to my instructions in the README. Just have a look where we're at. So I've set up the JWT app, and I've got a copy of my API key and my API secret key. So now I need to sign into CiviCRM and set up my custom field. So let's go do that. So it's telling me what to do. I need to set up 3 different fields. And as I'm doing them, I'll talk you through what they are. So let's go in. So I'm hoping everybody knows how to do this. So kind of prerequisite of this session is that you know how to install apps, you know your way around CiviCRM, you know what custom fields are, things like that. So I'm going to create my custom field set, and just in case you don't know, custom fields are just ways to hold data in CiviCRM that isn't there by default. So for my events now, because I'm going to connect some events to Zoom, I need a way to store what the Zoom ID is for the Civi event. so that Civi knows what event to push that contact data to. So I'm creating that of my Zoom fields, and it's used for events, right? Because that's where the settings will live. It's against the event. If I wanted to restrict it to particular types of event, I could. I'm just going to leave it blank, so it's going to show up for all events. This is my favorite setting in the whole world because I love unticking it. So should it say collapse? So when I go into it, should it be expanded or collapsed? I want it expanded. Now this is important. I'm going to leave this tick for now because I want to demonstrate what that does. So you should really untick it. For any event level information, you'd normally want to untick it unless it's something you want to display out to public. But we've had instances before where there's been people using accounting information or other pieces of information against events, not set this, and therefore that information ends up on public pages. So you don't always want it that way. So I'll check it for now just to show you what happens. So I've created my container for my new custom data. I'm going to go ahead and add my custom fields now. So I've typed all these before. So I'm going to create one for an account ID, and I'm going to leave it alphanumeric. I won't worry too much about this. There really isn't going to be, unless you're running like millions of events, it's not really going to make any difference whether you make that 20 characters or 255. It's really not going to make much difference, not unless you're doing massive amounts of data on this. So I'm going to make it searchable. I'm not going to make it required because not every event needs it, and I'm not making it view only because I need to be able to enter information into it. So I'm going to save that, and now I'm going to create one for so the webinar. So Zoom has two ways to create events. There's like webinars and meetings. A simple way to think about it is webinars are events that people can attend, but they can't really partake. They can watch. They might be able to chat a bit, but they can't really partake in the event. Whereas a meeting is a much more open table kind of discussion type event. You can still mute people. You can still shut down the video and stuff, but they're the differences. And I think Zoom's got a different pricing model for both. So it depends what you need, but the integration will work with either the webinars or meetings. So there shouldn't be a problem. So, right, okay. So that should be the final field. Yep, got account ID, webinar ID, meeting ID. I can call them anything, by the way. I've just called them that because it's easy for me. Just coming back here. So account, webinar, meeting, lovely. So then I would need to go into my CiviCRM and install the Zoom extension. So you would normally go into this guide to see how to install extensions. You might go in here and say, well, where is it? You're not going to find it in here at the moment because we haven't pushed it out. I'm just checking that we haven't pushed it out yet. So the only way to get it is to go into GitHub, copy that it was just one branch at the moment, copy the URL for that. So normally just right click, copy link address, and then I just need to log in to the server itself. Sorry, 1 second. Just gonna get my login credentials. And this is just a test server, so I've got straight root access to it, so it's fine. And that's why you shouldn't do that sort of thing. 28,000 failed attempts since I last logged in. I only logged in about 20 minutes ago, so that's interesting. Okay, so I'm in. Now what I need to do is get the extension. So I'm just going to fire a couple of. So wget effectively goes and pulls this Git repo. It will pull the zip file version of it. So I've got master zip 2, so I'm just going to unzip that. If I just do a listing now, I'll see I've got ncn zoom master. That's great. I'm going to copy all of that over to my extensions directory. That's all copied, and I'm going to make sure Apache owns it all. So if I just go in there, just for the text amongst us, so it's all there, and it's all looking good. So everything is there. So let's go back to Civi. So if I go back to here, just refresh this. Okay, so now I've got my NCM Civi rules action for Zoom. Don't know why it's called that, but anyway, that is what it's called. Let's install that. We've got Civi rules already, so we're fine with this. Let's install. All right, so that's all done. That's good. If I look at the events menu now, I've got Zoom settings there, so that's all looking fine in terms of an install. I didn't get any warnings or errors or anything. So let's go back to documentation. I've done that. I've installed it. So now I can configure the Zoom settings. So install the extension. Oh, I already said that up there, so it needs a bit of tidying. Navigate to Zoom settings. So let's do that. Events, Zoom settings. Create a Zoom entry for the Zoom account. It should be your Zoom account. So add a new Zoom account. So what am I calling it? I'm going to call it My Charity Zoom. The API key I've got from before, where we created the JWT. So I've got that. Now for the secret key, I'm going to get it wrong on purpose because I want to show you what happens. So one of the things that we did, I mean, all of this was not there when we took over the extension, but one of the things that we did was we've got a little check in there. So if this Zoom account can't be connected to, it's now going to tell you can't connect to it. So that's quite useful because we were getting a lot of issues. Otherwise, you had to. The only way you knew if it was working is when you actually went through to the booking, and it's quite a difficult thing to find out during that time. You want to know before when you're setting it up. So there's that, and there's also a test settings button, so you can run either. So let's put the right secret in. So I'm just going to save that. All right, cool. So now that's ticked. That's all connected. That's all looking good. These are the common settings that we've got for all of the Zoom accounts. So what's the base URL? So that's the base URL in Zoom to call its API. So now we've just changed it in the last couple of days. So it defaults to that. So you don't have to do anything. You shouldn't need to change it unless Zoom comes out with a V3 or V4 APIs and you need to amend it. But until then, you shouldn't need to touch it. So the other setting is what custom fields am I using in Civi for the areas that Zoom needs to know about. So for the webinar, I've created a Zoom webinar ID. For the meetings, I've created a Zoom meeting ID. And for the actual Zoom account itself, I've created a Zoom account ID. So I created those 3 custom fields before. So they're there now. So I can connect the two and just save that. Cool. So my settings have been saved. Everything is looking good from this end. So in effect, what I've got at the moment is a CiviCRM that is talking to my JWT. If there was a problem with my JWT, it wasn't accessible, I didn't publish it, I took it offline, then this wouldn't be connected. Zoom wouldn't allow me to talk to it. So what this is telling me is the connection's all good, and I've set everything in Civi that I should set to allow participant information to flow through to Zoom. But what I haven't done yet is set up the rule that actually tells Civi when to do that. So that's the next stage really. So I've done all this, I've set all that, yeah. Zoom, I've configured the fields, great. So this is the step we're talking about. So configure Civi rules to send participant information to Zoom. So I think when the NCM guys did the initial work, the approach they used was this, that there's actually a rule that sends it. It's not kind of hard integration. So I can decide how and when that information is going to go over to Zoom. So let's do that. Let's go manage rules. So let's see what I've got. So I've got a few rules already from the last kind of CiviCRM.Tea that we did. So I'm going to create a new one. I'm not going to call it high value donation. So Zoom register. So I want and we'll send. Okie doke. So I've just put my things in there. So what do I want to trigger this on? I want to trigger it on when a participant is added, right? So here you've got a few decisions. So right now I'm doing a simple rule based on my assumption is it's going to be a free event, and as soon as people register, I want them to go over to Zoom. Right? Now my decision might be different as an organization. I might say I don't want to do that. I want them to be paid participants or registered status. There might be all sorts of different opportunities I want to take in order to before I send them over to Zoom, right? Because as soon as I add them to Zoom, they're going to get the Zoom welcome email. They're going to get the links to the event. They're going to get access to the event. In effect, they're going to be able to go and attend that event. So I might want to delay that action until they've paid, or until until I want it to happen. So right now, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying as soon as they've registered, I'm going to send them over to Zoom. Cool. So I've created the rule and the trigger. So what I need to do now is so if I did want to say, well, there have to be a certain status, I could do that in the conditions. So I could say, well, let's add a participant status is, for example, is registered. I could do that. Again, I'm not going to do that because I don't at the moment. I don't care. If anybody wants to see any more examples and stuff, please do shout on the chat. Can't see anyone there, but anyway, if you do want something, now's your time to jump in. So action. So the action is, what do I want this rule to do? When this rule is triggered, what should it do? So I want it to add the person to Zoom, the participant to Zoom, and I don't want any delay on it. So I want it to happen straight away. So if I did want a delay on it, if I wanted it to happen, after a number of days, after a week or so, based on a date field trigger. So I've got event. Yep. So I might do. So 1 day before the event date, send them all over to Zoom. I could do that. My proviso on this stuff is always, you can't please your entire audience. So you might have 1,000 people registered, and 200 of those people might be really on it and want all their event information straight away, so they can put it into their calendars and put URLs in, and they know what they're doing. So if I set up this kind of rule, then yeah, I might cater for a scenario where there's changes, but what I'm also doing then is impacting everybody who wants to put it into their diaries and set the whole event up as a participant. They're not going to get their information from Zoom until 1 day before. So my gut feel is on this is, for me anyway, is to not put a delay on it, or maximum is like a day's delay at a max, but maybe 5 minutes or something is more realistic, just in case you've imported and made a mistake or something along those lines. And I'm not really doing it for any other reason apart from that. So I'm going to do no delay on mine. So there's my rule set. Like I say, as soon as someone registers, they're in. So if I did import 100 and I got it wrong, they are still going to get added to that event pretty much immediately in Zoom. So hence I might put a delay on it, of an hour or so, because I'll still, as a participant, when I register, I'm still going to get the welcome email from Civi. What I won't get is the email from Zoom straight away until the participants have been pushed over. So even if I delayed it for an hour, that's normally okay, right? So I'm going to get a second email an hour later to say, here's the Zoom event details. So I've got a confirmation email to say I've been added to the event, and then an hour later, an email with some details in it. which is fine. So anyway, that's enough blabbering on about that. So I've set the rule now. What else do I need to do? I set the rule. The screenshot, there is no screenshot, but I will add one in. So that's it really. So all the setup is done now. What I can do is now set up an event and configure it to my Zoom event. So I'm going to go into my Zoom account. So the marketplace is where your apps live. So to get out of, I don't need to log out, but I'm just going to do that. So to get back into actual Zoom, I need to log into zoom.us, and again I'm going in with Google. So I'm in. So I've got a meeting already set up. I'll set a new one up just so that we're kind of showing the whole process, and I'm going to schedule it for the 1st of October. It's easy. 3 p.m. That's fine. It's 1 hour. So the key thing here is for the Civi and Zoom integration to work, you have to have registration turned on your Zoom event. And sometimes we get asked why that is. Well, the simple reason is if you don't have registration turned on, then how can you pass contact information over to Zoom? Because what you're saying in Zoom is, I don't need any contact information. No one needs to register. But on the other hand, we're saying in Civi, I'm going to pass you some contact information so that they can register. So you need this set to required. Now, it does mean in theory, if someone got the URL, they could register directly in Zoom. I'm sure there's ways to prevent that. I'm sure there's ways in here to turn that off so that they can't do that. I haven't looked at it in too much detail, and even if they can, it's no worse than you sending out a link. Like if you're not using the integration, you would have sent them a link to the event. So that's far less secure than having a registration portal. So I've got all that, and I've set my passcode so I can be as secure as I want. That's all going to get communicated back to participants when they register. Okie doke. So that's all fine. I'm not worried about the Zoom settings. That's like up to you guys on a case by case basis how you set up your Zoom events. The only key thing is you need to have registration turned on. So I'm going to save that. Did I name it? It's called My Meeting. It's good, isn't it? How do you edit this? So that's that one. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to call this CiviCRM.Tea 4 so I can differentiate it. Okie doke. So that is my meeting now. And what I need to do is, this meeting ID is what I need in Civi. So I've got the meeting all set up in Civi, in Zoom, sorry. What I need to do now is set up an event in Civi. So I'll go into the events. I'm going to go for a new event. And again, just to make it easy, I'm going to pick one of the default Civi event templates. So it's a meeting, attendees, name only, on a participant. No, I probably don't want that. I'm going to call it CiviCRM episode 4. Put in the date and time. So this is one of the areas that I think we can improve and probably will do over time. Is really what you want to be able to do is pull all of the event information from the Zoom meeting, because right now I'm double setting up. I'm setting up the event in Civi and I'm also setting it up in Zoom. Ideally, I just want to set it up in one place. So, there's opportunity here to make it a little bit nicer. So it's at 3 p.m. So it's an hour long. Right? It's active. So these are now my Zoom fields. So if I there was a checkbox right at the beginning that says, do I want to expand it or not? So I made it expanded by default. So the first thing I need to do is pick the Zoom account. So this really is, it probably seems a bit irritating, but if you've got multiple Zoom accounts, that's why you need it. But if I've just got the one, then I've just got one account ID. It's not really, it doesn't really mean anything. So in here, I need to put the meeting ID that I've got. So I pasted it before. Again, one of the changes that we made recently is that it will strip out spaces, and it will also validate the meeting ID and the Zoom account ID and make sure that you have access to that meeting ID. So for instance, if I did a typo, it will tell me that that's not my meeting. It doesn't know whether it's valid or not. It just knows that you don't have access to it, not with that Zoom account. So it's kind of forcing me to get these right. So that's all right now. That looks all good. Let's continue. Event location. Again, I'm lazy, so I can't bother to type. So I'm just going to pick New Mexico. I won't mind going there anyway if anybody wants to sponsor a ticket for me. I'm more than happy. Fees, I'm not charging anything for mine. It's a free event. Online registration, yeah, it's important. Something else to bear in mind that a lot of people trip up on is the same email address. If you do that with Zoom, you're going to end up with problems, right? So in theory, a Zoom participant is an email address. How you get invited to the event is through an email address. So an email address is a seat in that event. So it's important you don't let sharing of the email address across multiple participants. You shouldn't really do that anyway. I mean, I say you shouldn't. Obviously, you can do whatever you like, but it's not good practice to do that. It's better to say, well, I'm only going to capture the first person's email address and not the rest. If I really am not interested if the email address is unique or not, rather than doing this. So for Zoom, for 100%, I would say untick it, because you don't want the situation where you've got a lot more participants in Civi than you have Zoom, and you can't quite work out why. And it's because they've all been sharing email addresses. It makes it all a bit pointless. So I would recommend you untick that. I'm going to allow the registration right up until event start date, but this is how you could, if I was going to have a delay, if I was going to say I'm only going to push Zoom registrations one day before the event, I might close down registrations one day before, just so that it's all nice and clean. And then obviously I've got the usual stuff. I've got confirmation email, all the usual stuff. I'll send that as well. Why not? No, I'm not going to get this. This is all connected to MailChimp. Sorry, Mailtrap even. So I'm not going to see that. So that's all fine. All right, cool. So we're good. Cool. So I did try this on the presentation, but let's try it now. So I'm going to try this in incognito. Oh, it works. That's good. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Let's go back. Event info, that one. So right at the beginning, it didn't do it. That's kind of interesting. Sorry, I did a little thing at the beginning because I was hoping that the fields would show. So let's just go back and say that I actually set it right. Not that. Not that. Well, maybe that setting is slightly different then. Yeah, should be, shouldn't it? Weird. Oh, maybe because the fields themselves are not set to public. That's probably why. Okay. Yeah. So I was I'm wondering why those fields, the custom fields I set, didn't show up. But they're probably the fields themselves are not set as public fields, so it's not showing them. Anyway, without further ado, so event information. I'm through. Lovely. I'm going to register now. I am going to do. I'll do one person because I'm not feeling that brave, so let's just do one for now. I'll do another test with two and let's see what happens. Okay, so registered. Yeah, everything looks fine. Register me. Okay, registered process successfully. I've got a registration email. Everything looks fine, right? So this is all looking good so far. So let's go to event dashboard. Yeah, event type. I've got one participant there. So it's obviously, I've got my information in Civi just like any other event. So that's all positive, registered for the right event, etc. So let's have a look at Zoom. And Zoom has a thing down here for the registrants. And it's still 0. Sod's law, innit? I wonder what happened there. Let's have a look. So let's have a look at why that happens. That all looks fine. Participant is added. I haven't got any restrictions on there. Let's have a look at schedule job. I've got my schedule jobs actually firing. Come on, 246, yeah. Maybe it just fired at 246. Let's see if it just went through. No. That's the old one. Let's try that again. So the Civi rules come. I'm gonna execute it now. That's the wrong one. Let's go to the other one. There's no one registered. Something is definitely not right there. It might be to do with the fact that I've not got my emails configured correctly. Alright, let me try. I'm going to try and edit that event. Shared. Oh, that's interesting. Where's my Zoom fields gone? Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to set this again. I think I know what the problem is. So that. So let's take that again. If this works, I'll explain what the issue is, and we'll. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to come back into my event. Okay, settings are still there, so that's what I'm checking, that I can come off the event and the settings are still there. So that's cool. Alright, now let's try the registration process again. I'm going to register now. I'm going to do it as a different email address this time. Okay, that's all fine. Continue that. Okay, so this time it definitely works because I'm seeing that information up there. I'm not sure that you would necessarily want that information up there. If I've got information turned off on my Drupal settings or WordPress, then it won't show anyway. But that should be there now. So if we close this down and go back into Zoom, let's have a look at this event. Yep, so now I've got my registrants there, and it's me, and it's the second email address that I used, right? So I can see now my my participants are getting passed through. Let's just have a look at what correspondence I got. So let's bring this window here. So you can see the email that I get from Zoom, and you can obviously you can tailor the output from Zoom. You can have your banners and branding in your email template, so you get everything. I get the ability to add this all to my calendar if I've got my Zoom app. Then I get all the links. So I get all of the kind of information that I would want from Zoom for managing this event. So it's quite a useful thing to get, right? So let's just go back. So why didn't it work the first time? So I noticed this yesterday when I was trying it out. Is if you make a mistake there and then put it back, it doesn't always save it. So we'll get this looked at, but that was my finding. So I'm just going to see if that is the case. I want to create a new event. So let's just do the same thing again. So let's just create that. Let's put any date. It doesn't matter about dates. So I'm going to get it right. Make a mistake. Put it back. Continue. Okay, I'm going to go back into events. So there's mine. Yeah, and it didn't save, right? So let's do the same thing again. This time I'm going to get it right first time and see if it saves. Oh, sorry, I'm doing a bit of debugging live, but that's definitely the issue. Is definitely somewhere around there. So this one's free. Do that. No mistake this time. Let it go through. Continue. Just trying to identify exactly where this bug comes from. So it's free. No, didn't save either. So it looks like on first entry it's not saving. It's probably saving on edit and save. So this definitely keep an eye on that. There's obviously a bug there. We'll take a look at it. As I said, it wasn't really our extension in the first place, and these are standard Civi custom fields. So if they're breaking, I don't know what's breaking them, but we'll take a look and see. But if you edit after the fact, so if I edit it now, then it will save. Yeah, so if I go back in dashboard, yeah, so so it definitely takes. So you just make sure when you're trying this out that the settings have taken and it's actually saved. All right, so I would have received the Civi email as well. I've got my Civi actually connected to Mailtrap, so the confirmation registration emails would have gone to Mailtrap. The Zoom emails come to my inbox, so I can see that, but I've not seen the Mailtrap ones. And yeah, I guess that is it really. So that is Zoom connected to Civi. We've been through all of this, and everything should work as it says on the tin. I know there was a couple of people struggling with it. I think Pete and a couple of others who are struggling to do it. I hope this video can kind of help you guys get over the line. It definitely works, and it's part of part of the advantages of using CiviCRM and an online platform, especially an open source one, is that we can react quickly to the changing world that we live in. We're at the moment looking at connecting Civi to Swapcard and a couple of other conferencing event conference management tools, because everything is kind of going virtual. So where you would have managed events with rooms, etc., and conference venues, you're now kind of doing it online. There's lots of different products popping up to kind of help you do that. So it's worth keeping an eye out on where this goes next. But definitely in terms of if you're a Zoom user and you want to use all of your existing CRM, GDPR, data protection, automated processes, then I would use the CiviCRM Zoom connector, connect the two systems up, and you will, in theory, all you're doing is adding another location to your CiviCRM, which is Zoom in this instance. So that should all work well. So I hope you all found that useful. If you have anything that you would like to cover off, or like to see us demonstrate or see how to use, then you can vote on CiviCRM ideas.CiviCRM.TV. So we can see that we're building up quite a nice list of things that people are interested in, and you can just go in and upvote for things that you would be interested in, or you can go in and comment if there's a specific direction you'd like to see, or a specific topic within that you'd like to see covered off. So going by the list at the moment, it looks like either Drupal web forms or Mosaico mailing will be one of the next things that we'd cover. We're probably going to have a gap next week, or not next week, in a fortnight, and resume after that. But please do keep us updated on ideas, and if you've got any comments on the YouTube chat would be good as well. So that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed the session, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.